tuning into M&M News at 6. I'm Mulan.
And I'm Michael Smith.
Let's start off with discussing the debates between historians on how the institution of slavery caused the Civil War.
Let's start by looking at the beginning of slavery more. So what is slavery?
This is when an individual is owned by someone who controls what that person does and where they live.
When did slavery begin?
Slavery has been a trend during the 18th century BC and has followed through different ethnic groups.
What are the roots of slavery in America?
America was introduced to slavery in 1619 when Africans were transported to the new America. Slaves took a major part in the aid of agriculture.
How has slavery gone throughout history?
The trend took over the 17th and 18th centuries, allowing slaves to work on building the United States economy. Around 2 million slaves were held under forced labor with harsh conditions. This is what sparked the abolitionist movement. We are now going to look at the different events and laws of slavery that led up to the Civil War. So Michael, please tell us, what are some of these important events and laws?
Some of these events are the Compromise of 1850, Triangular Trade, and the Dred Scott decision.
What is the Compromise of 1850?
This compromise was introduced by Senator Henry Clay in 1849 when California wanted to join the Union, but it was going to mess up the balance of the free and slave states. It also made it where the line between the free and slave states could not be extended.
What is the Fugitive Slave Act?
It was a law that made anyone that found a runaway slave have to return them to their master. It made the people in the North kind of take part in slavery without even owning a slave.
So what's wrong with slavery?
It violates the rights that humans have, that everyone should be treated equal. It also exploits and degrades human beings. Slavery increases total human unhappiness. Now that we looked at those, we're going to look at some other important events and laws.
What is the Nat Turner Rebellion?
The Nat Turner Rebellion was a group of rebel slaves that rebelled against their masters and in turn killed 55 to 65 slave owners. Later the rebellion was put down.
What is the Dred Scott decision?
Dred Scott was an African American slave. He was taken to a territory that didn't allow slavery. His owner did not free him, so he sued. The decision made it possible for slave owners to take their slaves into Western territories.
What is the Missouri Compromise?
The Missouri Compromise was an effort by Congress to defuse the sectional and political rivalries triggered by the request of Missouri late in 1819 for admission as a state in which slavery would be permitted. At the time, the United States contained 22 states evenly divided between slave and free.
What is the Triangular Trade?
This was known as a transatlantic slave trade and happened between the late 16th to the early 17th century. The triangular trade made it easier to transport slaves between Europe, North America, and Africa. Previous laws and events applied only to the South or the North, never to both.
This caused anger and disgust, resulting into arguments that could only be solved by war. Now that we've looked at how slavery led to the war, let's take a look into the effects of it and how it ended slavery.
What was the Civil War?
The Civil War was an American war that lasted for about 4 years, from 1861 through 1865, to define the Union's survival or Confederacy independence.
What was affected by the war?
Land between the Mississippi and Missouri rivers were blocked by cannonballs. Cargo packed on ships were also delayed.
How did the war end slavery?
The Emancipation Proclamation was a document signed by Abraham Lincoln, the 16th president, which stated that slaves held within the rebellious states would gain their freedom. Now that we've shared our input, it's review time. How do you think slavery impacted the Civil War?
Been spinning me out like I was poison in your mind.
Which president was responsible for the Emancipation Proclamation? What is the date of the Civil War?
This debate seems like it's going to go on for a while, doesn't it?
I agree. It does seem like a topic that is a big ordeal and shows us that slavery had a lot to do with the start of the Civil War. Well, it looks like that's all the time we have today. Thank you for watching M&M News, and be sure to tune in next time for the latest news on the debate.